All right. Hello, everybody that's here. We are now in the session Go Big or Go Home uh, with Dr. Martha Hubertz, Dr. Alisha Janowsky, and Dr. Kari Mottarella, all from the psychology department at UCF. And I will be monitoring the chat as we go through. So, because I know it's hard to present and watch that at the same time. This session is obviously being recorded. Um, but other than that, I think we're ready to go. So y'all can go ahead and take up.
All right. Let's see what I'm doing here. There we go. All right. And since we don't have any people, everybody has to play. That means you, Joe. All right. Let's see if I can get this. Let's see what's happening. Responses. Really? Nobody else played? There we go.
There we go.
Oh, sorry. All right. Professionalism, communication, adaptability, critical thinking, flexibility, all of the good things. Let me go back from current slide. All right, Kari, you want to take over?
So, career readiness really does focus on all of those that were just mentioned in the poll. You all hear me okay? Yes, okay. But what do we mean by career readiness? It is the attainment and demonstration of competencies that broadly prepare college graduates for a successful transition into the workplace. But what we have found is that we really do need to ensure that our students develop skills, knowledge, and attributes that prepare them for professional environments. And employers are, especially since COVID, but it existed before COVID, but has gotten even worse, that employers report skill gaps in their recent graduates and want our institutions of higher ed to respond to those skill gaps by intentionally designing curriculum with career readiness in mind, that will better prepare our students for the workplace and for success. And what we also want to point out is that career readiness does not at all replace typical traditional academic learning or typical academic content. It complements it very well. We are not replacing anything, but we teaching career readiness allows students connect what they are learning in an academic environment to and the skills that they are developing to apply to their careers and their jobs, and to be able to articulate the skills that they have and the knowledge that they have successfully to careers and to people they interview with and so on. So the next slide talks about the NACE competencies, and the National Association of Colleges and Employers launched these 8 career readiness competencies in 2015 and then revised them in 2020. And these are designed to prepare the college educated individual for success in the workplace and to be able to manage their career lifelong. And so the 8 career readiness competencies are career and skills development, communication, critical thinking, equity and inclusion, leadership skills, professionalism, teamwork, and technology skills. And the NACE website does have an asterisk by equity and inclusion and says to use it according to state regulations and procedures and preferences. And the next slide, we discuss that we need to really better prepare our students for that gap by designing curriculum and co-curricular experiences to prepare our students. And then to move on with this slide, to move on to the slide on the psychology career landscape. One more slide. So how this team got involved with and passionate about developing career readiness for psychology majors was what our students face. And about 40% of our psychology students go on to graduate school right away. Half of them or more go on to psychology graduate programs specifically. But that means the majority of our students, 60% of our students have the opportunity to enter and face the challenges of the current job market. And psychology major is one of the majors. There are many, but is one of the majors that is a generalist degree. And so our students go on to a wide array of types of jobs, such as in the human services, in education, in business, in healthcare administration, social work, and social services. So because of that, our students, like students from other majors, particularly those that are generalist type degrees, our students need to stand out, and career readiness really is the key to that. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Hubertz, who has some really wonderful ways to embed career readiness competencies throughout a course and throughout curriculum. You got to unmute.
I think it's just us and Christy,
Is there
who I
nobody
haven't seen in a
left?
while. Hey, Christy.
Is there anybody in our session?
No, it's a UCF session. That's all right. There's no shame in that. And again, Christy, I haven't seen you in a while. So nice to see you. Um, some of the things that we've been working on, obviously, LinkedIn Learning today is the last day for the campus to have LinkedIn Learning. So we removed that from this, although I had some really nice data on it. But, this is enterprise licensing. So one of the things we've done is really kind of focused on flexible learning pathways. This is not the Canvas learning flow necessarily, but rather the mindfulness of making sure that there's scaffolding, that there's asynchronous and synchronous elements, video, graphics, the whole thing. I do a lot of personalized adaptive learning with Joe. Uh, so we have focused a lot on actually what the keynote was speaking about. And in fact, some of the stuff he mentioned was actually from our research here at UCF. What? Yeah, right. It was a nice combo of some of the data Patsy and I have been working on with the acro folks. So it really does give us kind of this nice way of looking at it. The other thing is working on community and collaboration. So Kari and I were in the last session on the haunted house or the horror house of carnivals. I'm not sure what sessions the rest of you attended, but one of the things that came up, there was a faculty member, not from UCF, extremely frustrated with students and past students who were in there saying, one of the things that is difficult is connection and building community. And obviously, building community is important kind of across the board, not only for our students, but also for NACE competencies. Technology, UCF has been using VMOC the past several years in an attempt to kind of harness the power of AI for students. The data is a little mixed, but I think that's also because you have people who are really well established with Big Interview and some of the other tools. So there's been an adjustment as there is. And of course, authentic assessment. Um, and this has come up quite a bit as well, is that, how do you take something like I took a test and put that on your LinkedIn? You don't. But if you have portfolio-based activities, if you have projects, if you have things you can share, as a UN faculty fellow for OER, one of the things that we worked on was working with a library to create a STARS portfolio where students could deposit course projects there that had to do with sustainability, and get a Creative Commons license. So this is something they can show future employers. It's a little more challenging, I think, outside of computer science, right? Because computer science, they can use GitHub. They can use kind of other things. We don't have that in psychology, which is, somewhat of a challenge. All right, so we've got another poll. And this one is, which NACE competency do you find hardest to teach? I'm going to go back to them in case you do not remember. And again, this is anonymous. There was no way for me to track it. So write what you want to write. I gotta go to my, there we go. I think it took us all to the wrong.
Yeah, it was still showing the previous question
Oh, is it doing it?
when I did the QR code.
Okay, is it doing the right one now? I think so.
Yep, now it's the right one.
Okay. So hopefully, like I have too many things open on a tiny screen. So you have career, self-development, communication, critical thinking, equity and inclusion, leadership, teamwork, technology, and professionalism. Ugh. We all know that can be an issue. All right, so let's look at our results. Communication, critical thinking, leadership. And again, I don't think you're wrong. And do you think, just out of curiosity, that it varies between the type of course one is teaching? Meaning, do you think it's harder to teach communication online or mixed mode than you would otherwise? Because there might be something there, to be perfectly honest. All right, so one of the things that I mentioned in the slide prior was, if you're computer science, you've got things like GitHub, you've got a repository. Art students have a repository. Pretty much every other major doesn't really have that. So career services has been pushing students to use LinkedIn and use that as a way to document, kind of, in essence, a living portfolio. Like, hey, I did this great project today, or tomorrow, victim services is doing a green dot training for my students. So that's the kind of thing they can put out there and put on their CV and put on their LinkedIn. Again, I think when it gets to authentic assignments is where you get into this being mindful that your assignment is something that students could put into a portfolio. Even outside of computer science, I think, other fields could use GitHub. It's free. I do know that UCF does like a GitHub workshop every month. for students, faculty, and staff to teach them how to use it, but it is almost all computer science, not gonna lie. All right, so I don't want to spend too much time on any of this, mostly because I want to get to the data from program evaluation. How much time do we have left, Joe? Joe?
We have about 20 minutes, Martha, because it's
Oh,
only
okay.
Yes, yeah. Sorry. Helps if I unmute. Yeah, we
It's
are
okay.
here, yeah, from 12:40 until 3:20 is the next so we have,
Okay.
yeah, about 20
So
minutes.
what we see in national data, according to NACE, is that students who engage with competencies across multiple courses show higher job placement shortly after graduation. Since this is something that departments and universities can be kind of graded on, if you will, there is also a practical component to getting students these skills and exposing them to it. Faculty also report an increase in student engagement when they tie things together. And part of that may be just explaining why you have people doing what they're doing. So the past session we were in, they brought up, oh, you've got all these students doing things that they may think are just busy work. And part of that is how you connect the assignment to your class. If you're not connecting it, it's busy work. That's how students are going to perceive it, rightfully so. If you can't justify it, how are they supposed to at 18? So one thing could be incorporating AI literacy and ethical considerations is the type of thing that could lead to maybe building critical technology competencies, whether that was taking a LinkedIn Learning course on it or something else. So what do I do in my classes? Mapping. So obviously I map every assignment to NACE competencies. I will say, you know, most every course I teach has NACE competencies right on the front page with the course learning objectives. My messaging throughout the semester is very intentional. I tie it back to it. I drill down on the career services resources, changes, events. NASA, for example, I think was doing an event on campus yesterday, for interns for the summer and into next year. And of course, high impact practices throughout every class. And that we're ignoring because we're no longer doing LinkedIn Learning. All right, Kari, you want to take over this part? Or is this me? Oh, I can talk about this. So the alumni shadow programs, obviously we have that here at UCF. We also have, most universities do. So you can sign up with your university to be a mentor, or you can sign up to have people kind of follow you around. Career readiness mentor chains, meaning using your UTAs to help out your first year and college students. Social media challenges, so trying to get students to create LinkedIn content, maybe for extra credit. A NACE competency film festival would be a great idea for like the School of Visual Art and Design. A little harder for our area, but easy for theirs. The mock interview, again, we're using VMock at this point, and before that was Big Interview. So I think, UCF, because of our size, will always have some platform that we're using for the mock interview, which is good. Students tell me they get a lot out of it. Podcasts, trading cards, I think that works better perhaps in a face-to-face or blended course, but it could be adapted for online. Skill translation journal. Again, students really don't see the connection necessarily between an assignment you have them do and how that ties into a career competency. And of course, gamification, one of my favorite things, and you could do that with career readiness. Again, students love an escape room. I'm not an escape room girl, I'm not gonna lie, but I don't need to be if they are. And it's a fun game that they can relate to. Like, this is a cohort that has experience with game rooms. They like it, and that's what matters. All right, Kari.
Okay, so what our department did was develop two different courses. One was designed specifically for developing career readiness for individuals as they entered the major, and then one was much more advanced when they were in their junior or senior year to prepare them for next steps and entering the job market or applying to graduate school. So we developed a Career Readiness One course, and we talked about in that course things like what it means to be a psychology major, how they needed to shape their undergraduate studies towards their goals and developing those goals related to their career and education. And then in Career Readiness Two, that's where we focused on developing employability and taking steps towards their actual goals, practicing interviewing, writing resumes, cover letters. So if we move on to the next slide, this is a little bit more about that first class that we want our majors to take either in their first year or in their first semester once they transfer, where students explore where do psychology majors work, what can I do with my bachelor's degree, what do I learn as a psychology major. We talk about like that, letting them know, advising them, take advantage of these high impact experiences, volunteer work, internships, research, service learning. And we definitely, you want to hit really early on. So we do this, what graduate programs require, and then what they need to be doing right now as they enter the major to start to get prepared to be ready for graduate school and to be accepted by graduate school to have that experience. So that's our signature assignment for a beginning career readiness course like this for your first years or your transfer students who are just entering is an aspirational resume assignment where you have the students create what they want their resume to look like when they are graduating with their bachelor's degree. So you tell them create your real resume where you put what your achievements so far to date on that resume and your experience so far in your employment, your co-curriculars on there, but also add in blue font in blue the items that you intend to complete and to add and ideally have on your resume for applying for jobs upon graduation or for applying to graduate school. So that's their aspirational resume. And then on the next slide is we have them use SMART goals to create goals to meet each of their blue items on their resume. So if it's to get an internship, if it's to get research experience, if it's to raise their GPA, they have to make those specific goals, set those goals, including the timeline, the actions in the timeline, so that they can actually make those goals a reality. That's the signature assignment for that one. And then moving on to Career Readiness 2, that's our second course that the juniors take, or even hopefully they take in their junior year, but they might be approaching seniors. And we have them literally pick from mock fake job applications that are job advertisements that are based specifically on actual real ongoing jobs in the field. We have them pick from one of several choices so that they can pick one that really fits better for where they're headed and write a cover letter and tailor their resume for that particular job, and then give an elevator speech, their elevator pitch, and do a mock interview for that job. We also, in the Career Readiness 2 course, have developed a situational judgment test where these are used by a lot of industry now. Companies ranging from Publix and some of your servers out there in the chain restaurants take situational judgment tests to be hired all the way to IBM offers, makes their applicants take it too. So situational judgment tests present the student with different scenarios. For example, you are supposed to be helping MC an awards ceremony for your company, and you do not know how to pronounce somebody's name. Like, what do you do? And the answers range from just sound it out and wing it to email the recipient, and ask for a um, phonetically how you pronounce their name. So it gives them a variety of choices. The answers, clusters of questions are then mapped back to different NACE competencies to give them subscores on the competencies, professionalism and teamwork, um, and other competencies. We also in this course have them review their social media presence, and we give them some coaching on social media presence. And we have embedded in that course horror stories that have made the news on how social media has backfired on applicants. And then lastly, in that course, we have a whole unit on accepting and implementing feedback. And this sort of does tie back to the circus, horror circus session that Martha and I attended just last time, where someone was really emotional and really venting about the stress sometimes of dealing with students who are writing things in relation to getting feedback that they would never actually say face to face, but they feel really comfortable writing it to you in a message or a course mail or an email. So we try to coach them on accepting and implementing feedback, and have some really cool videos from experts on this about how to take feedback and handle it. How to handle feedback that you don't like, how to handle feedback that makes you upset or is disappointing. So we kind of wrap up the course with that as we're giving them some additional feedback related to their performance on the job application, simulation, assignments linked to the competencies. So that's a little bit more of the types of things that we're doing. Um, and yeah, so I just talked about that. And I think I could pass it back to
I think it's Alisha.
Alisha. Yeah.
I'm hitting the microphone button on Martha's screen that she's sharing.
I did that too.
And that was not successful for me. In case anyone was thinking of trying that at home, I'm here to tell you that
I do it a lot where I'm like clicking on people's screens.
yeah, and then I get that I'm trying to work on that expression I get when I'm trying to figure it out that everybody can see, because it doesn't occur to me to turn off my camera before making that expression. It's a process. So I think, Kari, this was actually
Oh, is it mine?
feedback that you collected.
Yeah,
But I'll
so
talk about the departmental assessment in a minute.
okay, so yeah, so this is feedback. This is definitely data that I collected in the career readiness classes, and the vast majority of students felt like after taking the career readiness 2 course where they did the whole mock job application with the cover letter, the resume, the situational judgment test, the mock interview, they reviewed their social media presence. They agree, the vast majority of them said that they felt ready to start their career in psychology upon graduation. But specifically, they noted things like, I like that the course made me focus on career planning after graduation. This course made me create realistic goals for the near future. Personally, I believe it is courses like these that play a vital role in preparing students for obtaining a job. And I loved getting practice writing resumes and cover letters, and learning the importance of changing these to target the specific job for which you are applying. This class was also extremely helpful in giving me an idea of what the actual job search process is like, and I really loved having feedback. And so there's 2 sort of takeaways. The students really like the feedback. Well, some of the students really like the feedback so they can tweak things, because the idea of tailoring a resume, a cover letter, even an answer to an interview to the specific um, job is new to them, like, which was surprising to me. But they don't think of like tweaking their answers, their cover letters, their resumes to fit what they're applying to. So some of that comes as like new and new revelations to them, that it's a technique to use. So we get some positive feedback on things they discovered in the course, and then I'm going to turn it over to Alisha to talk about overall program assessment data too.
Awesome. Martha, can you go back one slide for me, please? Thank you very much. So one of the things that we were asked to do as a department was to start looking at how can we capture some of this information and the effect that it's having on our students. We are very large. Our classes are very large. The classes that Kari's been speaking of are, 800 plus. And the fact that she's able to manage all of this makes me think she has some sort of wizardry going on. But what we started to do within the last few years, so we're still in the process of collecting even just some background data that we have for comparison purposes, is starting to ask students, well, do you feel like you're ready to actually get a job now? So in the capstone course, which is the last one in this sequence, we do our program assessment. And one of the questions that we ask them on our exit survey is, overall, I feel ready to start my career in psychology upon graduation. And they have to answer on, a Likert scale. And what we can see, this is from the very last year that we collected data from, is when we asked that as the pretest. Actually, this was a question that was asked them in career readiness too, right after they finished that task. We see a very significant jump in people feeling like, yes, I actually know what I need to do now in order to look for a job. So we were very pleased to see that all of our hard work is being reflected in students. They are seeing the purpose. And as we know, students like transparency. They want to understand, why do I have to do this? Why are you making me do this? And by linking it onto these competencies and showing them that this is actually something you're going to use, hopefully, in the next couple of years to get a job placement, it goes a long way with them and they see the point. I want to jump to the next one, please. Thank you. Then in the capstone course, during that exit survey, we asked them to reflect again, like, okay, now that it's been some time since you've done it, do you feel like that assignment helped prepare you for employment upon graduation, all that personalized feedback they were getting and things like this? And we see that if you look at the agree, strongly agree, we're in like the 70% of students feeling like this was really helpful. So whether it was in the spring or it was in the fall. We also asked them, so what you doing after graduation? Because they're supposed to be taking the capstone course in that graduating semester. Now, we know that that is not always the case. Sometimes they're graduating in spring, but they're taking it in the fall, or they may even be taking it earlier than that, even though they're supposed to have senior status. Perhaps they've pushed it on. So we recognize that the immediate plan might be shifting. And this is just recent data we've collected. We started asking them these questions, I think, last year. So sadly, we don't have comparison data to before Kari did all this work in those specific courses. So we asked them, well, what is it you want to do? You're going to go for your MA, you're going to go for a PhD or a PsyD, which is a doctoral in psychology. You're going to go to another kind of professional school for your JD or your MD, or are you going to go into the real world and get a job? And I think what's important for us as a department is recognizing that so many of them are thinking, I want a job, right? And we kind of mentally, I think, in our minds, kind of prepare them for grad school. We have them on that track, learning to do research so that they can be competitive. But more than half of them, that is not their intention. And more than half of them, meaning like 2,000 students. So we need to keep that focus. And again, that's where these competencies become very important for students. They need to have those skills in order to be successful on the job market. Established plans after graduation, meaning did you get into a school? Did you get a job offer? We're seeing that they're, if you look at it overall, they're in that 50% range. It's a little bit different in the spring than the fall, because again, sometimes I'm graduating in spring. We know that's a greater graduation rate. Same thing with graduate school acceptance. spring and fall. It really depends, right? Because most of the time they don't apply till the end of fall. So if they're answering the question at the end of fall, they haven't heard anything. And noticing who is still looking for a job. And I think that's a good place for us as a program to try to target outreach for students is if they're still looking, what are the different ways we can help them continue to remember what they've done, how to sell themselves, how to take all these courses and all this work that they've done and make them all the more marketable. Because I do think, as Martha said, they see things in silos, right? So here's what I did for school, and here's what I did for work, and we have to help them make those connections.
Higher level of looking at how, LLMs and how super AI is being developed, that it really does help make you think to the future and how these can really be applied to instructional design and instruction. So
absolutely. They're always really creative
cool
ways, too. So it's always neat to see what people think about. Like, oh, I didn't think about it that way, or oh, I wouldn't have thought to do that. So
genuinely
very neat.
But no pressure on us, Charlotte. No
pressure. No pressure.
Oh no, of course not.
No pressure. Yeah, we'll introduce only 3 ideas, but clearly, the sky is the limit. So,
and to be fair, it is also David Wiley's was 60 minutes and y'all's is 30 minutes. So you can only say so much in 30
and
minutes.
We'll talk about that, Charlotte. We'll talk about that.
So if you guys are ready to share screen, I think we're just about ready to go.
Okay, sounds good.